Hi everybody, Crystal here at the Fibromyalgia Pain Chronicles and Veteran Voices for Fibromyalgia, and I'm coming to you today with this informational video on a question that I am asked all the time, and that question is, how do you connect with and establish relationships with your legislators and their staffers? So here are some of my best tips and tricks to help you strengthen connections with your legislators. Now, I live in the United States, so this is for your federal legislators, like your senators and your congressional leaders, your state senate, your state House of Representatives, but also keep in mind that your county commissioners and city council people and mayors are just as important. Why? Because a lot of those people that are city council people, county commissioners, mayors, etc., they end up moving up and going into higher positions in government. So it's always great to follow your local legislators and leaders as well, because eventually they could move into a position such as in your state or federal Senate or Congress or your state House of Representatives or your state governor. So it's always great to establish those relationships early on when you can, because some of them will move into different levels of government throughout their career. Now, one huge but easy tip that I recommend is when you have, and we're going to start that one over. So one tip that's easy to do is go to your legislators' websites and sign up for their newsletters and updates. And what will happen is you'll receive emails on anything they're working on, any updates, and any possible events they may be hosting or attending. The other thing is some legislators will have a section on their website that says events that you can sign up for to receive email alerts for any upcoming events they may be hosting or attending. If they don't have that option, they typically have a calendar on their website that you can check routinely, and I recommend checking it weekly. And that way you can see if they are hosting any upcoming events or attending any events that you can attend. So some examples are, as far as Congress goes, congressional leaders, a lot of times, and senators, they will sometimes host like a health fair event. Or I'm a veteran, so a lot of times they will host or attend a veteran resource event. So when I see that on their calendars, I will go and attend those events just to be there, introduce myself, let them know what I'm doing in my own space of advocacy or organizational supports that I'm providing, and put that on their radar. Now, one thing that many advocates and patients and caregivers do is they make the mistake of not creating relationships, connecting with and introducing themselves to their legislators' staffers. And this is a huge faux pas, because the staffers are the ones that 9 times out of 10 are the ones helping resolve issues in the community, addressing things for their constituents, organizing these events for the legislators, but they also help with policy and legislation on behalf of their legislator. 9 times out of 10, it's often best to create a strong connection or relationship with the staffers, because let's say a senator or a congressional leader or even a governor or a mayor decides not to run again, or elections come up and they don't win again. A lot of times, some of those staffers stick around and go into different positions, different roles within the government, or the newly elected official will hire some of the old staffers. So staffers, some of them are around for years, working in a variety of roles. So establishing those relationships with your legislators' staffers is really, it's money, it's gold. It's good to connect and create that rapport with staffers. The other thing is follow your legislators from local, state, and federal level on social media, because at times they will post upcoming events that they will be either hosting or attending. And again, that's another opportunity for you to go to those events and interface with your legislators and their staff. The other thing is, again, following them on social media and signing up for their newsletters is a lot of times, like my congressional representative hosts town halls. Sometimes those town halls are via like phone or virtual conference. Other times they're in person. And if you have an opportunity to attend either virtually on the phone or in person, I highly recommend you do. Even if they are going to speak on a topic that isn't related to what you're doing, that topic could actually be impacting other people in your community. So while it might not be impacting or is relevant to you or what you're doing in your advocacy space, that topic could be impacting people in your community. So an example is I went to a recent town hall meeting for my congressional representative, and he was speaking about the importance of farming and agriculture. And as an advocate working in the spaces of advocacy for fibromyalgia, chronic pain, and veterans, that might not seem like it's connected to what I'm doing. However, I know I have a lot of people within my communities who are farmers or are big supporters of organic farming or big supporters of privately owned agricultural businesses. The other thing is there's a lot of people in my communities where they're in what I call food deserts, and they don't have the same access or financial ability to access nutritional sustenance. So while farming and agriculture may not seem related to the advocacy and awareness initiatives that I do, those kind of things impact my followers. So it would behoove me to attend to understand the legislative side of those issues. That way I can have a better understanding with my friends and followers and communities who actually work in the space of farming and agricultural, or they live in food deserts, or they're financially marginalized and they aren't able to obtain consistent nutritional sustenance. The other thing is making phone calls, especially for newly elected officials. It's always a great idea to contact your legislators via phone, introduce yourself, let them know what you're doing in the space of your advocacy work and how what you're doing helps support the constituents that your legislators are representing and supporting. This is a huge faux pas that I see this happening consistently across a variety of communities, not just the fibromyalgia veteran and chronic pain communities, but a whole litany of communities, is that advocates, patients, and caregivers will engage in legislative Capitol Hill Advocacy Day for the specific community they're representing, and they meet with their legislators or their staffers on that day, whether it is virtually or they go to their state's capital, or if they're doing advocacy on a federal level, they go to their nation's capital. And they interface and meet with their legislators, staffers, or even the legislator themselves. And then after that, it drops off. They don't follow up. They don't make a phone call or send an email or send a thank you note after meeting with their legislators. And this is really, like I said, it's a huge faux pas and it's a missed opportunity because our legislators and their staffers are extremely busy, and like their schedules are oftentimes booked out every 15 or every 30 minutes during their 12 to 14 hour day. And so it's very easy to come in, share your story, advocate for what your community needs, but you don't follow up with, saying thank you or following up with additional information in writing that is related to your advocacy efforts. So always make a phone call or an email or write a thank you note. And in that thank you note, if you have any awareness swag, like bracelets or pins, like here's some of mine. If you have any of that kind of awareness swag, then send about 10 of those, like bracelets and or pins if you have them, with your thank you note and some fact sheets about the issues that you brought to their attention and your quote unquote advocacy asks, which means you're advocating for specific things when you meet with your legislators. Last but not least, one thing that I also do, and I utilize social media for this, is that whenever I receive written correspondence from my legislators on an issue that I had supported and was advocating for that would positively impact the communities that I represent, I will share those on social media, thanking them for their time, care, support, and advocacy on that issue, and also thank them for taking the time to write and send that correspondence. Sometimes it is a paper letter, sometimes it's an email. And yes, the staff are typically writing those emails or letters, but again, it's an opportunity to not only promote awareness on the issue, but highlight your legislators supporting those issues that impact your communities. And then tag them. Tag them, thanking them. So I've done that several times with senators and governors and my state House of Representatives and my congressional representatives and even city council people and county commissioners. And I will snap capture either the email or the letter, and I will post it on social media, thanking them for their correspondence and for supporting the initiatives that will positively impact the communities I represent. And then I tag them in it. And the other thing that has been interesting when I do that is that a lot of them, whoever's their social media coordinator will see that, and they will have liked my post, have commented on it, and have even shared my post where I have posted my thanks for and gratefulness for their support on any initiatives that are positively impacting communities that I represent. So those are things and some tips to help you start building connections and those relationships with your legislators, and don't let things go to the wayside. Even if you're not engaging in, let's say, legislative advocacy all the time, or maybe you're more of a community support organization, don't think that it's not important for you to reach out to your legislators and representatives, to introduce yourself, to say hi once or twice a year, especially if you're hosting an event. So if you're an organization supporting a community of people and you're hosting, let's say, a health event or an awareness event or even an awareness fundraising event like an awareness walk, put it on the radar, invite them to attend, and that if no one from their office can attend, graciously offer to send the materials of some of the information that will be passed out at that event, along with other participants and organizations of that event. A lot of times with sufficient notice, and when I mean sufficient notice, at least a 30-day notice if possible, is that if you are attending, let's say, I'm going to represent Veteran Voices for Fibromyalgia at a veteran resource event, I might contact my city council people or county commissioners or my congressional representative, whatnot, what have you, and let them know that I'm going to be at this event with several other veteran-specific organizations, and invite them to attend if it's possible. And again, if you're hosting an event, always invite them. And no, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to show. You might have to invite them several times. And that's the other thing is, again, interfacing and showing up at events that your legislators are either attending or hosting. Again, that keeps you on their radar, keeps you fresh. It also shows to them you in action, investing in the communities that you're representing. So again, if you're hosting an event, it doesn't mean that they will be able to attend or send a staffer, but put it on their radar. The reason why is because I have also seen where while they cannot attend to the event, I have seen congressional representatives, I've seen mayors and senators share the event or the event you're hosting. If it's a public community event, like a health care resource event or a veteran resource event, they'll share that on their social medias, which then helps you spread the word of what you are trying to do to positively impact your communities. So there are some of my best tips to help you strengthen relationships and connections with your legislators on all levels. The other thing is I know it is kind of nerve-wracking and it can create a lot of anxiety reaching out to these people who have, in essence, a lot of power to drive and change policy and legislation. But at the end of the day, they're people too. And in my space, I have connected with and I've had conversations with staffers from city council people, mayors, county commissioners, state House of Representatives, governor's office, congressional representatives, and senators where they might not understand the illness or issues I am representing on behalf of my community. They may have someone within their staff or within their family or within their network that has like a chronic illness, or they're related to a veteran, or they're passionate about healthcare policy, or they're passionate about disability rights. So oftentimes sharing your story or your personal experience with your medical condition and the things that you're doing to help your fellow community members with that medical condition to provide improved outcomes of life and healthcare and improving quality of life. This is of interest to a lot of your legislators, because even if they're not necessarily representing those interests on subcommittees within their governmental position, a lot of them are going to know someone that has a chronic illness. So here's an example is last year for Legislative Advocacy Day for Fibromyalgia Community, myself and other veterans living with fibromyalgia met with staff from Congressman Dan Crenshaw's office. And I had learned during the course of our discussions and sharing our personal stories and our advocacy asks that one of the staffers has a chronic invisible illness. And while they didn't have fibromyalgia, they went through the gamut of testing, assessments, and ruling out the diagnosis of fibromyalgia before the doctors actually figured out what their medical condition is. Another example is one of my state representatives has a family member that has lupus, and then there's another state representative in my state of Ohio where they have a family member diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. And so while these things are not necessarily specific to fibromyalgia or veteran needs, they will have some insight of what it is for someone to live with a chronic illness, chronic condition. And so that's the other thing as well, is that you don't know who your legislators know living with a medical condition. The other final tip is, if you're going to engage in legislative advocacy, either virtually or in person in Washington, D.C. or your state capital, I always research and read my representatives' bios just to see. Sometimes some of them will talk about how like they have a spouse that battled cancer, or they have a child that has a medical condition, or they have a family member that's a veteran. And so I actually do my research on where they are coming from in life and what their experiences have been. And if they share those things, then I know to open the conversation. I always thank them for publicly being upfront about how medical conditions and chronic illnesses have impacted someone that they cared about. And that's a really great way to open the conversation for what you are hoping to accomplish for your communities. So, a little bit long video, but if you found this helpful, please like and share. And until next time, make your self-care your #1 priority. Love yourselves and love each other.